through of Pokemon Red, I decided I was going to talk about the most common thing I hear from a lot of younger kids when I mention about teching is just the beginner upgrades. Uh, First and foremost, with these guns, they're clearly not as accurate as a lot of the real guns that they try to represent. So your best bet is to try to upgrade them with their bucking, barrel, and hop up. I would like to point out, first of all, learn your gun. I've run into a lot of times where kids don't even know what a hop up is, and they just go about their day not doing anything about their hop up unit. So just want to let you know, make sure to adjust your hop up and know whether or not your gun actually isn't shooting as far as you want it to. But if you are trying to reach a little bit farther out and touch somebody, here's a few tips. I'm just basing this off of an M4 platform. Most people have an M4 just because it's what the current military uses, at least for Army's sake, standard infantry rifle. And therefore it's the one that sells the most, so that's why there's so many M4s in existence. I'd say your best bet at the moment I'll start off with a hop-up. A lot of guns come standard with a plastic hop-up, which is fine. Sometimes they're good enough. I know G&G's pop-up units work just fine, but if you want to upgrade, you can get a metal one. They come in two types, the kind of pot metal style, and then CNC aluminum ones. This attack. The beginner entry-level ones for metal hop-up units would be APS, SEMA, and even the GMPs. This is all based off of sales you can get off eVike, Airsoft GI, Airsoft Megastore, and you can even get some of this stuff off of Amazon even. And then there's a few other retailers that you can get stuff from, like Brill Armory is another one, Clandestine. But for the sake of the kids, most of them hear about eVike and Airsoft GI and Airsoft Megastore, so I'll be focusing on that, because a lot of the younger airsofters are the ones that are uninformed, just because they don't have as much access to the internet as us adults. The next step up would be a Lonux hop-up unit. It's a CNC, it's aluminum. It's decently priced for the material it's made out of, the quality of the machining. I would point out, I've had the problem where I'll load mags into it and it won't feed because for some reason the machining quality is too tight in how the BB feeds into it. So you just get a drill bit that's just slightly wider than the hole that feeds in the BBs. Just drill it out, just that one, nothing else, and you'll be good. I've done that with at least 3 of them now, and it's worked out just fine for me. The other ones to mention would be the Mad Bull. It's usually called a 3-in-1 hop-up unit. I know Echo One and Troy Industries really favor Mad Bull's hop-up unit. It can also be linked into, I believe, a tracer unit that is attachable to the hop-up unit itself for using tracer BBs. If you don't know what tracer BB is, it's for... Oh, look, I learned Ember. Nice. It's used for... I'm just grinding right now to get my levels up. They're used for night games. Simple as that. It's just like an LED that's flashed quickly on the BB and causes it to glow in the dark. Anyway, then you jump into like the SHS rotary style hop-up units. Those are becoming really popular now. I personally don't believe the idea that it's better than a standard hop-up unit, but that's just me. I haven't really seen significant results. I don't see the fine-tuning. All I see is if you bought a cheap hop-up unit, it's going to be loose, and it's going to wiggle loose from where you've adjusted it, so. But that's my personal opinion. And the next step up from that would be a Pro Win hop-up unit. Now, sometimes these hop-up units, they can be a little finicky, but they're very favored in the high-performance guns. The Pro Win is favored amongst a lot of Polar Star users, just because of it's highly quality controlled. I've not really seen a Lemon Pro Win hop-up unit. It's usually just certain models of guns don't like them. So, and then finally after that's Prometheus, and they use a Neo chamber. It's the same standard as any other hop-up unit, single piece hop-up unit that comes in any stock gun. So I've used it. It works just as fine. The only problem I have with it, I feel it's overpriced, honestly. I mean, I like my go-to is usually Lonex parts for a lot of stuff. But if you want to spend the money, go ahead, I guess. After that, one issue that a lot of people don't pay attention to is their model of gun, and here's the main thing. ICS likes to favor their split gearbox design, which I'm not complaining about the design, because I love the fact that you can change out uppers like that. The problem is that it kind of uses a proprietary hop-up that it's rotary, but it's very specific to the gun and how it meets up with the gearbox and the length of the air nozzle. If you're ever wondering why you're having feeding issues with your rate of fire, typically it can be your air nozzle's length. It can be how the tappet plate's engaging on your sector gear. This is all advanced teching stuff. I really shouldn't be talking about this in an intro. Another basic one is you'll see the phrase one-piece hop-up unit. It was really popular a few years ago to have two-piece hop-up units, so you could correctly split an airsoft gun in two, like a standard M4, how they actually hinge. A lot of airsoft guns can't do that these days just because of how the upper portion of the gearbox prevents the upper receiver from separating, so they designed it with a split gearbox design. A split hop-up setup. So the two companies that are known for this were JG and Echo One at a time, especially when they had their Stag Arms line. But the joke with that is, though, JG and Echo One are kind of the same company. They come all out of the same factory. It's just JG is, we'll call it Asian standard, and Echo One is American standard, so they get American quality checks. Next up, I would go towards a better bucking. A lot of your stock guns will come with a standard silicone bucking. Not much quality control on it. It's just mold injection and then gets popped out and they go. They don't clean up. They don't do the things necessary to make them proper every time. One note I would make is that G&G has one of the best stock buckings for an intro gun anybody has ever seen. You can buy them separate too if you ever want to place them inside your guns. It's called the G&G Green bucking. It is definitely cold resistant, and by cold resistant, a lot of silicone rubbers tend to shrink in the winter, so it affects how your hop-up's engaging. So it's best just to switch with the G&G Green, honestly. And that green bucking will last up to 400 FPS before you start damaging it from the high FPS coming out of your gun. Another note will be, you'll notice when you check out different buckings that there's something called degree. I think the lowest you can get is 50 degree, and you can get all the way up to 80 degree, if not a little higher. Basically, the lower the degree, the lower the FPS it matches, and the higher degree, the higher the FPS it matches. So for a 50 degree bucking, typically that's a 300 FPS and lower gun. Then you can get 60, 70, 75, 80. 80's typically that 420, 450 FPS bucking. And then any higher than that, you pretty much want to get into flat hopping. But I'm not going to talk about flat hopping because any intro airsoft player should not waste their time on flat hopping unless they're willing to take the time to actually learn about it and then pay decent money with it, because it's expensive comparatively. Okay. Some of the good intro buckings from lowest to highest. Lonix makes a great bucking, and they make different degrees. SHS, I've heard some good things about them, but most people don't go for them just because SHS is kind of a Chinese off-brand kind of thing, so people get kind of sketchy about it. But for those who tech, SHS does make decent parts. Garter and Modify, they've made aftermarket internal parts for years. I more so go for the Modify stuff, but Garter is just as good quality. And then I also put on here Crytac, because the Crytac bucking is a decent bucking, and it comes in a high quality gun, and it's not at a bad price either. And you can check this out on eVike or Airsoft GI. And then most of these, if not all of these, also come with their own individual nubs, so they engage properly. You can get aftermarket nubs, but it's better just to use the one that comes with it if you're an intro player. And I've mentioned the G&G green. It's I feel really should be just the standard. I don't know why any airsoft gun maker doesn't put just a cold resistant bucking. I haven't seen any difference between a cold resistant and a non-cold resistant outside of the non-cold resistant can't take the cold. And I live here in Michigan, so we only get like 4 months of warm, and then the rest of the time it's miserable. It's like 50. I mean, I'm fine with it, but when it comes to airsoft, once you start getting below 50 degrees, it's pointless to be outside with an airsoft gun that doesn't have a cold resistant bucking. So anyway, and then there's also Maple Leaf and Mad Bull's buckings. Now, first of all, Maple Leaf makes a very good bucking. I like using them in the higher FPS builds. I feel sometimes they overhop a little too much when it comes to lower FPS guns. It's just that nub that's inside the actual bucking itself just grabs onto BBs really well. So unless you're going to use in a more intense, I'll say, hop-up bucking to make your gun shoot with more hop and then use heavier BBs and just take the slight FPS drop, that's fine. Because a lot of you guys are probably using a 350 FPS gun, and most likely you're also playing indoor recreational versus outdoor recreational, which outdoor recreational would work too, but and then the Mad Bull buckings, that's an interesting thing, because the blue is used for CQB guns, and then the red is used for up to 400, and then a little bit higher than 400, but not much. What's interesting and bothers me is they always talk about, every video you watch about a Mad Bull gun and that does a disassembly and they evaluate the parts, they always talk about this Mad Bull orange bucking. I get kind of suspicious about it because I never see them sell it. It could be just how they sell their product, but they put it on all their stock guns, so I really don't know how to feel about it. And then I just get nervous because I'm like, looks a lot like that Crytek bucking, but that's none of my business. For any of you who like that meme with Kermit the Frog. right, so that was Buckings. Thanks for watching this first portion of the playthrough. I kind of started dragging on. I didn't notice the timer, so I'm going to split this into 2 episodes. But let me know in the comments below if you enjoy this gameplay, and then the commentary that I've left behind for any of you intro players. And check out episode 3 where I'll finish the conversation about intro parts. So, talk to you guys later.